Hello everyone. So we wanted to cover what they just did on WandaVision and who might be the antagonist for the entire show. Chthon. Chthon is a well-drawn out character in Marvel that basically brought in all the troubles in the Marvel universe and maybe the multiverse. Chthon has many aliases. The God of Chaos, He Who Sleeps, What Once Walked, Demon of the Darkhold, Great Shadow, even possibly another variation of Satan himself, so kind of like Mephisto. This character has brought in so many other characters that are on the sidelines of Marvel, but they end up making it very tough for a lot of the heroes, and just in general, there's so much play in what this person has done for the history of Marvel. This character created the Darkhold Dwarf, Dragoness, the Hellhound, Karok, the Midwife, Monstrosity, the Ape Lords, the Ape Men, Wolf Men, Harpies, Goblins, Shadow Demons, the Whisperer, Wish Demon, Broodlings of Chthon, and the Elder God's offsprings. So we're talking about a Galactus level threat. This demon, this Satan of Marvel, if you will, the base of operation for this person is Calais, or what they call the Other Realm. And that's his personal dimension. Earlier in the comic books called it Wundagore Mountain or Transia. And I think this is kind of important, his occupation, what he actually does. He's a demon and also an archdemon, as well as the God of Chaos. And I think that's really important to note that this is the God of Chaos in the Marvel world. And we just got done talking about chaos magic. So I think this is where this is probably leading. We've already seen the Darkhold in this series, and I think it's pretty easy to say that we're going to see more of this going forward. So we're probably talking about a Galactus level threat at the end of this series. So we're talking Shumagorath, we're talking Chthon, we're talking Mephisto. And these are probably the top three main Marvel characters that are going to fill in for Thanos. We're talking about characters that can change their physical attributes. Just like Mephisto, in his own realm, he can become as big as he wants, he can become as small as he wants. This demon has just about every chaotic magic that Wanda herself exhibits. This is 1% of his entire amount of magic. So think of it kind of like Juggernaut, where he gets 1% of an Elder God's power and he completely becomes unstoppable. And just like Galactus, his true form is elemental energy. It doesn't really matter what physical attributes he has. He is just going to look like whatever you perceive. So if, say, you run into this character, he is going to look humanoid in form. If a Skrull run into this character, then he would end up looking kind of Skrullish, and Galactus is in the same mannerisms. So we're still talking about a Galactus level threat. This character was around before the creation of the Earth. Now, Chthon is trapped in his own dimension currently. We see that in the show, and in the comic books, it's an ongoing thing. It's the same thing with many of these elder gods. They're trapped in some type of emblem, totem. They're trapped in some type of way to basically keep them away from all of the regular Marvel characters. It kind of encapsulates them to where they can do what they need to do without somebody like that wrecking their whole entire storyline. But it gives you a basic idea of how strong this character is supposed to be in the Marvel Universe, that they actually try to find ways to cut him out of the storyline. Now, just like the Elder God that gives Juggernaut his power, any of the Darkhold's users that have forfeited their souls are granted power by Chthon. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we're seeing with the witch herself. Maybe she is drawing power, kind of like Doctor Strange, from the dark dimension. And although we're not seeing any crest on her forehead or anything like that to indicate that Dormammu's in control or owns these people, she possibly could be influenced in some type of way. Or maybe she's drawing power from that dimension. In Earth's early days, Chthon was one of the first dark arts practitioners, and on the level of Doctor Strange, on the level of that 2,000 years before Doctor Strange ever became a thing. Eventually, Chthon led a faction of evil gods to war against another group, and Chthon's side was defeated and pretty much banished from the Earth. But over the centuries, humans could find scrolls pieces of the parchment of the writings of the Darkhold, and they would put this together to create this book. And it was all the writings of Chthon. Now, all of the surviving Elder Gods through this war would basically reach a pact. None of them would go into the other one's realms or territories. However, Chthon's dimension, the one that he escaped to, was close enough to continue influencing Earth. So, needless to say, he found a way to intervene indirectly. He would create demon races, and even as so far as the werewolves. He is actually responsible for the creation of werewolves as well as vampires. And that is why he gets the name Father of Many Monsters. At one time, even Morgan Le Fay, and this may be how they work her into the canon for MCU, Morgan Le Fay actually formed a cult of mystics, some other magic users, to surround the power of the Darkhold, and actually attempted to summon Chthon to do their bidding. And I'd like to read a paragraph out of the fandom site. I think it's really kind of poignant for what we're talking about with the WandaVision series. In medieval times, Morgan Le Fay formed a cult of mystics around the power of the Darkhold and attempted to summon Chthon to do their bidding. Being invited back to Earth and its residents was a loophole in Chthon's pact with the other Elder Gods. Although he was under no obligation to obey his summoners, realizing their mistake, Morgan's cult could not fully banish Chthon from Earth as he was in primordial times. Instead, they bound him to a single location on Earth, Mount Wundagore, in what would become the Eastern European nation of Transia. We're going to stop right there. We think this paragraph is probably what the writers and everybody is going on. Here is the possibility that this witch is going to open up the gates to Chthon to allow him in this universe using Wanda's magic. Now, is she under the same hypnotic spell, so to speak, as the followers of Dormammu? We have no clue of that just yet, but however, we do understand that she's doing this for a reason. Any villain who just wanted to get rid of Wanda would have done it already. This is not going after a person to attack them directly and get rid of them. No, this is trying to find out information in this last episode. Now, I said we were only going to do one paragraph, but I'm going to do one more because I think this adds on to it as well. Morgan's tower became the resting place for the Darkhold itself. Bound by spells to prevent it from being used for evil, a mystic from the Age of Camelot known as Modred entered the tower intending to harness the power of the Darkhold for good. The other, a manifestation of Chthon, appeared to Modred and tried to bargain for his soul. Modred refused to give up his soul for the demon, but when his lady love Janice entered the tower, and in Chthon's field of influence, Modred sacrificed his soul to spare Janice. So these are different characters, but they're all playing different parts, and we think that this is actually showing us what's probably going to happen in the show in the near future. We're just throwing out if this is a possible spoiler, but we think that this is probably either going to be Shuma-Gorath, Chthon, or possibly Mephisto, because you're talking about chaos magic. And these are the prime suspects when it comes to the masters of the dark arts. So in this WandaVision episode coming up, who do you think is going to be the main villain? Is it going to even happen in the WandaVision series in the first series? Or are they going to drag this out as a slow burn just like they did with Thanos? Is it going to be Shuma-Gorath? Or are they going to throw us a curveball here and make it be Mephisto? We love what they did here with growing the situation. It was droll, dab, boring. Didn't do anything to really overtake the whole entire show from the beginning. They waited for all of the big news towards the end of the show. So the pace is on point. We love the growth of the show. We think the most wonderful thing in the world is actually sitting back trying to figure out who this next Marvel villain will be. We think that's half the fun. Is Agatha Harkness a good witch or a bad witch? Because from what we saw in this episode, it seems as if we're kind of looking at a anti-hero rather than a hero or a villain. She believes that she was wronged by them trying to burn her at the stake. She didn't even realize her power and took the lives of the rest of the witches that were trying to do her in. More than likely, Agatha went around the whole entire world putting together the pages, and now that she has the pages, she has her basement in Wanda's place, and we'll go ahead and say this maybe is Morgan's Tower. This isn't Morgan's Tower, obviously, it's her basement. However, this is changing time and places, but we do know that she's holding the Darkhold for herself. She's bound it by spells, preventing any other witch, any other person be effective against her magic, because she has it surrounded by her own rooms. And we're going to read a couple more paragraphs here just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with as far as Chthon. Before he left this world, however, Chthon reached out and touched an infant girl being born on Wundagore that night, marking her as a potential vessel for the future. That girl will be called Wanda, Maria Russoff. Margala Sardos thought to enlist Wanda into their group. When they began sensing the presence of the Gypsy Queen's coven, the Taboo, under the directions of Chthon, used a copy of the Darkhold to prevent Wanda from coming under the influence of Set. Taboo enlisted the help of Damballa to fight against the coven. While they battled, Wanda's powers emerged for the first time, which allowed Chthon to pass across the dimensional barriers. Before retreating, he told the people involved that they would bear children of a cult. After Mudred finally succumbed to Chthon's influence, he captured the Scarlet Witch and performed the ritual allowing Chthon to use her as his vessel on Earth. Wanda, as Chthon, opposed the Avengers when they arrived to help her and imprisoned them in a magical circle that would summon Chthon fully to Earth. Probably not going to have the entire lineup of the Avengers, but we are seeing how this character is probably going to play out in WandaVision. Anyway, folks, what do you think? Is this what you think should happen? Is this something that you want to happen, or is this what you think is going to happen? Also, if you think that Mephisto should be the one, let us know, because we kind of think so too. However, this is where it looks like it's leading. Anyway, folks, you have a wonderful afternoon. See ya.